M331 is seen heading westbound at CP101 in Marion, Ohio, crossing both the NS Sandusky District and the CSX Columbus sub. M331 is daily Cumberland, Maryland to Avon, Indiana, Intermodal and Manifest, with quite the lash up on this one. Rack train M205 heads west by 159. The Conrail Tri-Lights soon to be replaced. As needed empty pipe train B520 heads eastbound through Bell Fountain, Ohio at QI 140. With a surprise, UP's 1982 Western Pacific Heritage Unit in the lead. At Stockyard, QI 139, an eastbound is lined up. The eastbound soon reveals himself as Autorack train M204. M204 is daily Louisville, Kentucky to Buffalo, New York, with a work stop in Cincinnati and sometimes in Ridgeway and a couple times in Marion. M332, daily Avon, Indiana to Cumberland, Maryland, Intermodal and Manifest, follows closely on the heels of M204 through Stockyard and Bell Fountain. M332 on this day had 3 BNSF-9s and 2 BNSF gensets going to scrap in Lordstown. Him and his counterpart 331 used to run under the symbol Q348 before the symbol changes. Before PSR, M332 and 331 were actually 3 separate trains. One was a separate intermodal, a separate auto rack, and then separate manifests. And we catch the M332 again, splitting the Conrail Tri-Lights at QI 130 just outside of Russellvania, getting one more look at those BNSF units. Back in Bell Fountain, eastbound intermodal hotshot I-008 rounds the curve into town. To the left in those trees is BS Tower. In front of us is Tyler Dixon. I-008 is Daly Rose Lake, Illinois to North Bergen, New Jersey. M217 heads westbound through Bell Fountain, crossing over the shortest street in America, literally. M217 is daily empty auto racks from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania to Louisville, Kentucky. When he reaches Sydney, he'll turn south on the Toledo sub. WO85, an empty Herzog train, heads westbound at CB 101, crossing over the Sandusky district in Marion. A flashing yellow signal at QI 80 in Galion, Ohio, warns us of an approaching eastbound. That eastbound is M204, daily loaded racks from Louisville, Kentucky to Buffalo, New York. The track that branches off to the left over there is a CSX Columbus Burt line. That only gets a local and some as-needed coal and grain trains. And we see M204 again, this time in Greenwich. Greenwich, on to Bell Fountain, is known as the Mount Victory sub, but rail fans still refer to it as the Indy Line. M363, a westbound manifest out of Selkirk, New York, running to Avon, Indiana, gets on the Mount Victory sub at Greenwich with an SD70 Mack rebuilt leader. Also of note are the giant auto parts boxcars behind the locomotive. Out of the auto parts boxcars on the train, 2 of them stood out for being chassis system boxcars. These are extremely, really rare nowadays, and they're a particular favorite among rail fans. Here we see the old shanty in Ridgeway still standing. It offers a nice view too. Here we see I-146 coming off of the Toledo branch onto the Scotts Lawn and crossing the Indy Line at grade. I-146 is daily North Baltimore to Columbus Intermodal. Windmill parts train S990 is seen heading eastbound on the Indy Line through Marion. S990 had special power, a BNSF and war bonnet paint, which rail fans call fake bonnets, and a KCS-9 still in BNSF paint. Loaded coal drags C895 out of Princeton, Illinois to Pier 9 in Newport News, Virginia struggles to get going uphill at a place called Stockyard in Bellefontaine, QI 139. With two big Gevos leading the way, they're doing everything they can to get this train uphill, but it's clearly not easy. Shortly thereafter, westbound autorack train M217 makes an appearance. He's heading westbound where he'll turn south at Sydney onto the Toledo sub. Hotshot Intermodal I-008 next takes his turn eastbound through Stockyard. Trailing second out is a nice surprise, one of CSX's new heritage units, the 1982 Seaboard System, which rail fans have affectionately nicknamed the Mullet Unit. On a windy but sunny day in Marion, a slow-rolling M204 with 2 DC Gevos pulls past the Marion Diamond. He'll soon stop and back into Marion Yard to drop and pick up some auto rack. While he's doing this, eastbound hotshot I-008 roars up beside him with a classic AC 44. Eastbound Intermodal and Manifest train M332 heads east through Marion, Ohio on the Indy Line. M332 is Avon, Indiana to Cumberland, Maryland with a very classic GE. With the windmills in the background of the Marion Yard, X630, an all-auto rack extra from Avon, Indiana to Walbridge, Ohio, slowly comes off of the Indy Line heading eastbound and turns north onto the C&O to head towards Walbridge. At the time, M630 and 631 were daily out in the C&O out of Walbridge and turned west here at Marion. Both were abolished and then recently reinstated, but come down the Toledo branch and turn west at Ridgeway. The scene at Quincy, Ohio has changed little, but as of 2023, the Conrail tri-lights on the Indy Line side that guarded both ends of the diamond have been replaced. The only tri-lights that exist here in Quincy are on the I&O side of the diamonds. Eastbound hotshot I-008 graces through the countryside with a classic AC 44 liter, passing by the new signals. Quincy is also a favorite among rail fans because of how open it is for eastbounds coming into Quincy and for going away shots of westbound. short time later, at QI 153 in Quincy, westbound empty autorack train M217 heads west through Quincy and crosses over from track 2 to track 1. On a chilly morning, the CSX Marion, Ohio local is seen making a run out to the industrial yard on the east side of town. There he will pick up a couple cars and then return with the locomotive pushing. Note the Conrail caboose on the back of the train. A flashing yellow warns us of an approaching eastbound manifest, M364. A few minutes later, the signal updates to a clear, which is telling 364 the daily Avon, Indiana to Selkirk, New York manifest to proceed at maximum speed. 364 is led by 2 GEVOs on M364 is affectionately referred to by rail fans of the Indy Line as the land barge train. This guy is usually anywhere between 12,000 feet and maybe even more than 16,000 feet. On this day, he showed why he was nicknamed the land barge. He was a giant, enormous train with a lot of autoracks on the end too, and another GEVO placed mid-train, mainly towards the end of it. A little while later, westbound autorack train M217, daily Philadelphia, Pennsylvania to Louisville, Kentucky, is lined across the diamonds at Marion with a CSX CM44 AC rebuild and a CSX ET44AH for CSXT 9051 leads M332 out of London. It would stop in a few miles at QI 96 to wait for a passing westbound. In between the CSX Indy Line action, NS trains are constantly running up and down the Sandusky district, crossing over the Indy Line at AC Tower. Here, a giant behemoth manifest heads southbound towards and clatters over the diamond. A little while later, another NS northbound, heading towards Bellevue, crosses the CSX Indy Line at AC Tower, and in just a few moments, will meet a passing southbound on his way towards Columbus. After the NS trains had cleared, westbound manifest M331 gets his chance to go across. He's coming out of Cumberland, Maryland, and will head to Avon, Indiana, where the stacks will go on another train, probably somewhere out. And a little bit later, E700, empty coal from Stylesboro, Georgia, heading back to Newell, Pennsylvania, comes east by AC Tower. Eastbound rack train M204 is seen heading eastbound at QI 105. He will slide onto track 2 to get around a westbound rack train. At QI 120, just on the east end of Mount Victory, where the single track doubles up going west, the signal at 120 shows a yellow over flashing green, approach limited. This is a signal indication for westbound autorack train M217, who's going to drop 5 racks at Ridgeway. Leading M217 on this day was CSXT 1850, painted in the L&N Heritage Unit scheme. CSX is doing a bunch of these, which rail fans have aptly named Back in Marion, a CSX empty coal train on the C&O line crosses the Indy Line at AC Tower. Eastbound rack train M204 is seen beginning his work in Marion, pulling some auto racks forward and then backing them onto the rest of his train. M204 will do this, and then he'll eventually get the signal to go. Shortly after, an NS train that was just working the Marion yard on the north end is now ready to depart and head south across the CSX Indy Line on the Sandusky District. This train will terminate in Portsmouth, Ohio. And shortly after the NS, the C&O line spits out a grain train heading north. Of interest is the Y&2 Paint CSX second. The Y&2s are disappearing with the fast-coming rebuild program for all the old. An NS hotshot intermodal flies across the Indy Line on his way south towards Charlotte, North Carolina, with a classic lash-up of two -9s and an SD70M-2. Following closely on the heels of the Intermodal, a -9 duo, one in the thoroughbred and one in the mass scheme, leads a loaded ethanol southbound towards Columbus. As the wind picks up, eastbound hotshot I-008 flies east towards. Not too far behind on the heels of I-008, land barge manifest M364 heads eastbound by AC Tower. Note the flared Mac rebuild trailing. Loaded grain train G641 is seen heading through the snow in Russellvania. You can tell it's uphill by how loud the Gevos are struggling to move. Shortly after G641 cleared, loaded coal train C895, Princeton, Indiana to Newport News, Virginia, heads east through Russellvania.